Hey, welcome back to the Mark Moses Show here for a Friday. It's my birthday celebration show, and I had to go big. And this is for me personally, not the listeners, for me on my birthday show. I am a gigantic fan of this fine gentleman, and he's been part of my life for all 39 years. He doesn't know that, but I appreciate him coming on. He is Daniel Pesina. That's right, aka Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Johnny Cage. And he's also Master Pesina as well. Let's bring him on. My man, how you doing today?
Mark, have a flawless birthday. And when you get to the birthday cake, finish him.
Oh, man. It is great to meet you. And I'll just say this. So my whole life, because I was 10 years old when Mortal Kombat came out. I know it's a long time ago now. And grade school, high school, college. I lived in multiple states for radio and TV. I'd always play Mortal Kombat. All for my whole life, I'd play this game. And especially with the pandemic, I'd work from home. I have the one-up arcade machine of Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
And I'd be at home playing as you. So that's what's cool about this, man. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for all that support.
Okay, so where are you from originally? We will start there.
I am from originally where I am right now, Chicago, Illinois, in the Midwest, the birthplace of Mortal Kombat. Most of the people, actually all the people who were in the first two games were from Chicago and friends.
How did you get involved? And I know you've been asked this 30 times in the last 2 days. How did you get involved with such an iconic game?
First of all, I never get tired of the same questions because it was such a great experience in my life, like helping to collaborate and create the game. Mm-hmm. So what happened was my brother is an artist. But when he was younger, he used to hang around with a group of artists, and sometimes they'd be at my mom's kitchen table drawing, sometimes at a friend's house drawing. But one of those guys was John Tobias. So I did stunts for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. And shortly after that, John called me up and he's like, hey, congratulations on doing stunts in the movie. Will you help me? I have a vision for a video game, a live video game. Like when we were younger, he wanted to videotape us with a camera and him directing like for a kung fu movie. So he was like, man, I want to do a martial art game, but actually have people who are real and know martial arts in this game. Will you help me do that? And I was like, what do we need to do? And he's like, just like, I can't pay you a lot, but any ideas you have, we'll put in the game. It's like, it's going to be small, 200 arcade cabinets. And I'm, you're going to help me pitch it to the place I work for. And he told me about where he worked for, which was Midway Games, Midway Valley in Chicago.
If you would have taped this conversation, you could have sold it for $1 million now. You know that, right? You really could have. The thing for our listeners, though, is you actually have a fighting background. So I will let you, the floor is yours. What have you studied when it comes to martial arts?
I started in 1969 with judo. And at that time, there was no, there really wasn't a kids classes. There was a teen class, but I was like barely 10 years old. And, I seen martial arts on TV, naturally, Bruce Lee. Later on, there was kung fu movies come out from Hong Kong and things like that. So I bugged my dad to go take lessons, and finally he takes me to go take lessons. And the guy is like, the instructor is just like, the instructor is like, sorry, we don't have kids classes. But my dad talks to him a little bit, and my dad served in the U.S. military, and this guy served in the U.S. military. So he was like, in the end, he was like, you know what? Let's see how he does. He's young for the class, but let's just see how he does, because my dad just kind of sold him. Just let him try it because he won't stay long. My dad never thought I would stick with it. That'd be like a month or a couple of weeks, and then I'd be done with this phase of my life. But yeah, so I started with judo in a teen class, and I even then, when I got my black belt, I wasn't 18 years old, so I could not wear a black belt. I had to wear a brown belt with a red stripe, which signifies I was a junior black belt because back then a black belt meant things like responsibilities, like able to vote, able to serve your country, drive, have a driver's license. All those stuff were part of being an adult, and being a black belt was for them that like part of that. So from judo, I got to experience some Shotokan karate. When I turned 16, I did a little bit of jujitsu because they wouldn't teach kids jujitsu even back then because it was, it was the samurai jujitsu where you're throwing people and locking them up, kind of like what today, but a little bit more battle focused for the military. Mm-hmm. So started with that, and then went on to what I really love, Chinese martial arts. I started that in 1975 with
so what is, for our listeners, because on your website it says, is it Chicago Wushu? What is that exactly?
Wushu actually means martial art. Wu is war, shu is art or play, like like you're practicing. So a lot of people call it kung fu, which is skill and time. So those two words meaning, like, if you're a great cook, you have kung fu. If you're a great car mechanic, you have kung fu. If you're a great computer programmer, you have kung fu. So a lot of people think that wushu is a style, but in China, if you say in where they actually use the language, if you're like, oh, you do wushu, they're like, well, what kind? Because you could do Japanese wushu, or you can do Korean wushu, or Thai wushu, or Chinese wushu. So Chicago Wushu just means Chicago Martial Arts School, basically.
I like it. It's their website they should check out if they want more information on that.
Yeah. It's www.masterpesina.com.
Okay, he keeps it simple. So if we go back to John Tobias, your buddy at this time, early 90s in Chicago, he calls you up. He says, I want to make this game. He's your friend. He made the right phone call because you know what you're talking about, right? So what did you tell him? Because I know you were pretty much the coordinator for the game when it comes to how this should look when it comes to fighting. What did you tell them?
Well, first thing we did is we met him at his office, and he showed us some artwork. He had artwork of a few characters that he had sketched up. So what he asked for me was, he was like, can you arrange some choreography, bring my brother Carlos, who's Raiden, and our friend Rich, who is Kano, later on, and do some fight scenes, because that way they can see like my idea, because up to then there wasn't really like martial art fight games. There was Street Fighter, but the martial arts and Street Fighter is all like not real. Anybody kicks like that, though it's cool. I play Street Fighter, but if you kick like one of the guys in Street Fighter, you would break your leg. And they had other games where they were fighting, but those guys didn't really know how to fight, like Pit Fighter. It looked cool and I played it, but they didn't really know how to fight. But John wanted to be like really associated with fighting. So we shot this video, and he made his presentation to Midway. And for the record, so we met with the representative Midway and gave them more ideas for the game, and then they said no to that. At that point, they came up with a different idea to have a mainstream video game with Jean-Claude Van Damme, because they thought it would make more quarters. Because this was only going to be a small game, 200 cabinets, but the idea of a fighting game, with a bigger star and that platform, they figured they would make more money that way.
It's better he said no. Now it's better. That's why it's so crazy with life. I don't know if it's as famous with Van Damme. I think it's better because he wasn't in the game. And then your beautiful face would not be on the side of every machine. You know what I mean? So
yeah, well, yeah, because too, it wouldn't have been like what we see right now. It would be in a mainstream game, meaning like you're Van Damme and you walk around, beat everybody up levels. This game was like, with us, beside us, just fighting one on one, mano to mano, type of game.
Daniel, were you like you're saying you want it to be realistic? Were you there filming and you're just like, no, you can't do that. That move, you can't jump 2 times in a row, do a backflip. That's not going to work in the game. Did you start doing that when you're trying to break down moves?
Actually, I did like because too, I have a big mouth too. There were certain things that I wouldn't do. An example is originally like the fourth character we shot was Scorpion.
Mhm.
And Ed wanted me to take a lasso and throw it around the guy and tie up the guy and then walk up to him and get free punches.
Mhm.
And I told Ed, because again, I don't work for the company, and Ed is the manager of the game. You know what I mean? He is the boss of the game. Uh, so this was one of Ed's first ideas to do this later on. And I was like, no, Ed, I'm not going to be Wonder Woman. I'm not going to do that. And John starts laughing a little bit, and Ed just kind of looks at me, and I was like, I got out a rope dart, which is a weapon that I compete with, and I showed them what a rope dart is. It originally it was to pull horsemen off their horses, because the guy on the battlefield with the horse is one of the most dangerous people on the battlefield. So you wrap this around your body to get speed and shoot this 1 or 2 pound dagger at a guy and try to pull him off their horse. So I showed him, and John was like, "Oh, this is so awesome! I'm going to put it in the game." And so, yeah, so there were times when I'd be like, "Nah, I'm not going to do that." At least for the first game. For the second game, we not so much. We started the people who were kind of the main people of the first game started losing a little bit more control in the second game once it went big, naturally.
Did you think when you threw that out that it'd become one of the most famous moves in the history of video games? Everyone knows that. The get over here. Everyone knows that. My mom knows that move. Like everyone knows. I imagine in the moment you're like, hey, just do this. It'll look great. Don't worry about it. Did you ever think that move would be that famous 30 years later?
No, I never had any idea, because we're doing 200 cabinets. That's all. Because when we pitched the game finally, when Midway was like, okay, do your 200 games, and I told John and Ed, I'm like, if you do 201 game and give me a game, I'll let you make as many as you want. And they were like, no, we're only making 200 games. So really, we thought we were going to do 200 arcade games, and again, just to get over here, like when I did the move a few times and I was like pulling him, Richard DeVizio yelled out, "Get over here!" in the Kano voice, and then he pretends to give the guy an uppercut like this, and Ed fell in love with it. Ed just walked around the whole day saying, "Get over here, just get over here," saying it over and over then, because it was so, what Rich, came up with, created, was so cool to kind of goofy to do it.
It's my favorite move. I mean, in all video game history, it's my favorite. We're here with Daniel Pesina, famous for being in Mortal Kombat and a great guy as well. I will say that. Probably a tortured Chicago Bears fan like I am. That's probably also true. Do people realize you're Scorpion and Sub-Zero, or do they just say you're Johnny Cage? Like, how does that work?
It usually works according to what their favorite character are, because it seems like most of the time I'm their favorite character. So if they're Sub-Zero characters, they're like, "Oh, you're Sub-Zero," So, but they always say Johnny Cage too. "Oh, you're Sub-Zero," and they like not to offend me. They're like, "Oh, but you're Johnny Cage too," or they're like, "Oh, you're Johnny Cage," or they're like, "Oh, you're Scorpion." And two, when they say I'm Scorpion, they're like, "Oh, but you're Johnny Cage too." Like, they don't want to really offend me or anything like that. Not really realizing, like, guess what? You're correct. I'm all of them.
Well, I'll be honest with you, since it is my birthday show, I only play as Scorpion, Sub-Zero, or Johnny Cage every single time. Okay? Every time in the original game. What has it been like for 3 decades where fanboys like me come up to you and talk about it, and you go to conventions and you do interviews? It has to have been fun, right? Doing all this stuff.
It is fun, and it never gets tired. I never get tired of, like, people are like, "Oh, how did you get how did you get into that?" or something like that. Or just questions like, "Hey, how was the first fatality created?" And you know, that is just one story, but I never get tired of saying it because all of a sudden you have a 40-year-old guy or a 50-year-old guy turn 12 years old. Because when they look at you and tell them the story and they see your face, they're just like, oh, they're all of a sudden they revert to being a kid. And it's so cool to see their reactions and being like, oh my God, I remember playing with my best friend in my basement, my mom's in the basement, and we had to hide it from my mom. She'd come down, we'd have to shut it off because of the blood. Or, you know, oh, remember the blood code and just things like that. Yeah. So it's so cool.
Well, I know, look, we had a movie come out about a month or so ago. Did you ever think that, I mean, all around the world, everyone knows about Mortal Kombat. If you're a video game player, everyone knows. Did you ever think that, like, you know, popularity goes down? Now it's back up again, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Isn't that also really cool about all this stuff?
Oh yeah, it really it's gonna go. You know, it'll be here probably after I'm gone. The franchise is so big, and it'll continue hopefully for another 50, 60 years. And I don't want to live I'm that old. I enjoy doing martial arts and you know, even doing Tai Chi, and I don't want to get to an age where I can't do that. So I'm happy that it'll continue.
You know, I just saw my brother the past couple of days for the first time in a year and a half because of the pandemic, which is really cool. How cool is it when you look at your story? Your brother was part of it as well, and you guys got to share that. I'd love to hear this.
Yeah, my brother, not only my brother, but everyone in the first two Mortal Kombat games did the game as a favor to me. Like when we were, again, because John was like, oh, we can't pay you a lot. You know, anything you can help us with, you know, we're going to give you credit. You know, we're going to do this. And he's like, who do you think we could get to do this? And I was like, oh, we could get Tony to do it. Tony Marquez is Kung Lao. And he was going to be in the first game, but he broke his toe. He dropped the weight on his toe and he broke his toe before he was going to film. So he couldn't be in the game. But, and Ho Sung Pak, Liu Kang. He was going to be Liu Kang, and he's going to, you know, Liu Kang is the hero of the game. But yeah, John was like, the Ho Sung won't do it. And I was like, I'll ask Ho Sung for a favor and he'll do the game. So even then, like Ho Sung was like, I was like, told him about the game. And he's like, you tell me how it goes. And if it goes like you're saying goes well, I'll jump in last. He goes, but I don't want to just do it and like have it waste my time. I want it to be something good, you know? So he was happy to jump on board, or, you know, or the first Sonya, the original Sonya, you know, I asked her, hey, will you do me this favor? That's not going to pay much, but you can do, you know, anything you want in the game, you can put in the game. So she's the one who wanted to do the leg grab, you know, so that whenever you see the leg grab, think of the first Sonya, because that's one of her contributions besides the friendship. Yeah.
What about you? The nut crunch, if we want to call it that. Can you really do that in real life? I've always wanted to ask you this. Is that really you doing it?
Yeah, that is really me doing it. And I did it like 50 times as a bride. You know, because when I always look at the origin of MK. I know if you ask somebody who works for the company, they're like, oh, Johnny Cage is modeled after Van Damme. But when we pitched the game to Midway, it wasn't like that. So that's why when I was creating Johnny Cage, because that's how everything was, we didn't have like really any kind of guidelines. We were like, oh, John was just like, do something, you know, because we didn't. The first day of filming, he had a sheet of moves and it said high, medium, low. That's all it said. And I was supposed to fill in everything, you know. I filmed for like 6 days, 8 hours a day, trying to get all the high, medium, low responses. So that way, whoever came in next, we would have some kind of guideline and some kind of organization to get this game done in 8 months. So with that, John was like, hey, Van Damme said no to that other game. We need to do some moves to make fun of him. And I was like, no, no, John, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And he's like, come on. And I'm like, no way I'm going to do, you know, I'll pay for his movies, but I don't think Van Damme's that great of a martial artist, you know, no. But as I said, I'll pay for his movies because I'm a fan of his.
Yeah.
But John was just like, I will buy you an extra large pizza if you do this. And I kind of looked at him and go, you will buy me an extra large pizza tonight. And he's like, yes, if you do a few Van Damme moves, I will buy you an extra large pizza. Little did I know I was going to be doing the splits like 50 times, man. I could barely walk at the end of the day. Because we had to record it different ways to kind of figure out how we're going to use it in the game. Because it wasn't just like, okay, do the splits. Okay, you're done. You know, it was like kind of do it straight, do it like front split two, do it facing backwards, punching with, you know, where you're doing the split this way and punching behind you to see how things would work, you know, and that was it with all the techniques in the game. It wasn't just like punch, you know, we were just like, well, what, let me punch like this. No, yeah. How about like this? How about we punch like this? You know what I mean? And how about if you open up more and just kind of experiment with moves to create that game?
You know what I think about also? You getting punched as well. You know, you think of, oh, I'm going to do this, but it took time as well to get it. You're falling over. You're getting punched in the face. Wasn't that part of the process as well?
Yeah, that actually, and things like falling, people are just like, oh, you just fall over. No, that took a process like 40 minutes of different ways to fall. Like John is like, when you get hit, fall down. So I thought, okay, if you get hit like this, and then you're going to fall down with your face facing away. And so I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this is going to be 2D. Let's try to do it like you fall, kind of spin and fall. And then we're looking at, no, let me try like, so in the end, I was just like, man, it's not just dynamic enough. I was like, what happened? I was like, watch this, John. And so, and two, like when I filmed for the first 6 days, there was no padding. There was no, it was on concrete. So I was going to fall on the floor, but I did judo for like 5 years. So yeah, I know how to fall. So finally I flipped on my back and John was like, that's it. That is the fall right there. That's the big fall right there. We're going to use that. And then I was like, John, you know, you're going to have to get a mat for the rest of the people. They're not going to want to be falling on the floor, you know? And he's like, okay, we'll get one.
That is unbelievable. All right, real quick. When did they show you that you were going to be on the side of the machine? Because I know that must have been mind-boggling. It's one thing, okay, you're in the game, which is awesome. But every machine till the end of time is you on the side art on both sides. Did that blow your mind when they showed that to you?
Actually, John called me up and he's like, the game is going to come out. And John calls me up and he's like, yeah, we call each other Book. It's like a Lithuanian Polish slang thing for it's kind of an insult.
Okay.
So he calls me up and he's like, Book. And I was like, what's up? And he's like, you know what? If it wasn't for you, I would have never got to create this game. He goes, what I want to do is for thanks, I want to put you on the side of the game. And I was like, what? He goes, I want to put your image on the side of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I was just like, well, thanks. Okay, how are we going to do that? And he goes, oh, you're going to have to come in tomorrow morning and take pictures. And we're going to put you on the side of the game. It was like that. It was within like not even 24-hour notice. And so the next day I wound up in front of a camera doing the jump sidekick. This guy is like a professional photographer and I could hear him trying to, you know, I'm doing the jump sidekick and I hear him like clicking and I'm like, no, I'm not going to be, I look at some of the images and like, I'm just not happy with that because it's not, you know, it's not dynamic enough because when you're in a close space, you can't run and do a sidekick, you know, like you see, you got to stand in place, jump up and then do a sidekick. And I just wasn't happy with the angle. So I was like, we need to pull the stairs that we used for the game, which I kind of came up with, and we got to use that and take pictures on that, and then guys can cut out the stairs for it. So
it's nuts.
Yeah, it became legendary.
Okay, I have to ask the corny question: do you own the cabinet in your house?
I recently, a fan, Mike, gave me a one-up cabinet. Mm-hmm. So I have one in the house. It's in the corner. Usually when I do like interviews for other game shows, I kind of have it going on in the background.
Awesome. It really is. I'll end with this, and I appreciate coming on. We're here with Daniel Pesina. I know he's super busy. So again, thank you for coming on. So here's my story for you. So a couple years ago, I'm doing TV work in Orlando, and this is maybe 2018. And I get done, and I tell some of the other guys, "Hey, let's get something to eat." And they go, "We're busy." So I said, "Forget you guys. I'll get something to eat by myself." And there was a retro video game bar, and it was called Joysticks. I walk in, I'm wearing this same shirt and tie. That's why I'm wearing it today. And they had the original Mortal Kombat machine in there. And it's like a Sunday night, no one's in the bar. I say, you know what? I'm going to finally beat this stupid game after 25 years of trying to beat it. That's how I was talking. So I would go there over and over again in a suit and tie and beat the hell out of the game as Johnny Cage, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. Okay? So that's why on Twitter I go 18-time Mortal Kombat champion, because I beat the game over and over again. And at the point, and this is why I want to say thank you, because I'm trying not to laugh, women would come up to me, because you see a full-grown adult male in a suit and tie playing Mortal Kombat, and they're like, wow, you're really good at this game. So, Daniel, thank you. You helped me pick up women as well. Okay? That's when I said Mortal Kombat's the greatest game of all time.
My job is done.
It is. And that's why I had to do this right here. The best.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
So I hope I'd like to come to Chicago this summer, see family and friends. I hope I could stop by your studio and say hello in person. It would mean the world to me to do that.
Yeah. Get over here.
Daniel, real quick, what's your website one more time people could check out?
You can go to look for me on Facebook, Master Pesina, Instagram, Master D Pesina, and my website is www.masterpesina.com.
I imagine guys at bars, they pick a fight with you. I'm like, not only is he a black belt, he's also Johnny Cage. And like, that's what I imagine. You picked the wrong guy to mess with. Daniel, thank you for your help. Thanks for coming on, and stay safe out there.
Have a flawless birthday, Mark. We'll see you.